I struggle a lot.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a first draft.
Progress over perfection.
You just record 30 songs and throw away 29 of them.
Psychological safety. You are almost inside the experience. It's more about debugging the people side of the problems than the tech. A little bit less time spent debugging, AI and agents being able to help us rapidly prototype. Focus on what you can control. Most of the people at these conferences are here to learn, to make friends, and to leave it better than they came.
We're here at JSNation today. I'm Scott Tolinski from Syntax, and with me is Addy Osmani. And Addy, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Are you enjoying the conference so
I'm
far?
loving the conference so far. It's
Yeah.
great.
Have you ever been to a conference in a planetarium?
This is the first time I have ever been to a conference in a planetarium. I can actually say, in my 15 to 20 years of speaking, this is the nicest venue of any conference I have been to.
Really?
Really.
And so, what was it like uh, being up there and seeing like the way that the screen looks and just knowing that this is like such a unique experience?
I guess to recap for folks, it's almost like a spherical dome screen, and everything is projected alongside it. And so it feels like you are almost inside the
Yeah.
experience as an attendee. Speaking was awesome. Like it really made me feel like anytime there was like interesting graphics or good use of the space, that the attendees were getting something more out of it. I guess I'm giving another talk tomorrow in the space. I'm going to be staying up tonight and seeing if I can do something
Yeah.
even more creative with it.
I'll be introducing you tomorrow. Look forward to that.
Awesome.
So, for people who don't know you, do you want to give a quick introduction about who you are, what you
Yeah,
do?
yeah, sure. So I'm currently an engineering leader at Google. I've been in tech and doing software engineering for probably 25 years now. A lot of my career has been focused on trying to help developers build better experiences for users. And that kind of touches everything from developer tooling to frameworks to different tooling stacks, everything in between. But really, it's about trying to help people just get a better experience on the web. I love the web. I care about it. I want people to be able to and really enjoy it as much as possible.
Nice. I've been following your work for a long time. You've written a lot of books. How did you get into writing to that degree?
I tend to tell folks, write about what you learn because it encourages you to think a lot more about topics and make sure that you understand them. Because if you're telling to somebody else, like you have to know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. It's through that lens, like very often, writing helps me better educate myself in order to educate other people. And so I love it for that. I also just love the art of writing because sometimes giving yourself a constraint, like a blog post, can't be 30 pages long,
Yeah.
right? A
Yeah.
book can't be 10 books long very often. And so just having that constraint helps you really nail down like what is the core idea you're trying to get across. And I consider that a challenge. Like, how can I clearly get my
Yeah.
point across in a short amount of text? I love that.
One of your books, Image Optimization, really focuses on techniques for, making smaller images load faster. Is given, how things have evolved, we now have faster devices, more bandwidth. Is image optimization still an issue in 2025, 2024?
Yeah, great question. I would say that even though networks have gotten faster, phones have gotten faster, we are still almost always in situations where things are suboptimal. Like if you're on a train or you're on the go for whatever reason, your network connectivity is not quite at its peak. We all remember those situations where like you're trying to load something, whether it's on Reddit or a shopping experience, and you're still just waiting for something to load up. And I think that images are very often a big reason that you're waiting,
Yes.
right? It's very easy for someone to take a photo on their phone and just upload it directly to the web and maybe not realize, oh, wait, this thing's a couple of megs big. Doesn't need to be. And so I still think that there's a lot of opportunities, whether it's, with image resolution or newer formats or progressive loading. There's a lot that we can do to just make sure we're giving people a good experience on the go.
Cool. What are some of the easiest wins that people can
I
get
would
there?
say the easiest win that you can have is just trying to compress something without worrying about resizing or modern formats or anything like that. That's usually like there's lots of really good free tooling that can help with this part of the problem space. And then if you really want to go all in, subscribing to an image CDN is usually a good way to go, and they'll handle a lot of the optimizations for you. You can roll your own CDN if you want, but I
Yeah.
tend to think that those are, not too difficult to get set up these days.
Yeah, those are cool techniques too because you can, manipulate the images with URLs even, or request different formats and
Yeah,
stuff.
a lot of
Yeah.
flexibility.
Yeah, totally. More recently, I don't know when exactly, but you've moved into more of a management role, right? You also actually wrote a book on leading engineering teams. How has that been as a developer to go into management?
I think that maybe 6 or 7 years ago, it's been a bit of a long arc, but I realized that while I get a lot of joy out of building and solving technical problems, I get even more joy from helping lift other people up and enabling them to solve problems or enabling their teams to solve problems. And management and leadership comes with its own kind of unique, neat sets of challenges and different
Yeah.
things that you're navigating. Over the years, what I realized was I wanted a guidebook for this. And even though I love reading management books and leadership books, I didn't quite find something that captured exactly what I was looking for. I care a lot about like how can you be effective? And how can you be effective? How can your team be effective? How can your company be effective? And those are different aspects of scale. There are different kinds of problems involved in each of them. So I really wanted to write about that. So that is kind of what my book talks about. How should you think about effectiveness, and how do you help those people around you become effective and stay effective, even in your absence?
Yeah. And what makes engineering management different than just managing other teams?
I think that engineering management has some unique challenges. Like we are often yeah, especially in this moment in time, people talk a lot about the importance of velocity and shipping,
Mhm.
and lots of companies are quickly trying to pivot towards how do we have an AI story and all these types of things. And even though trying to change how company like engineering teams approach velocity is hard, you also want to make sure that things like psychological safety are in place for folks. And that's kind of a classic management and leadership thing. So how do you give people an environment where they can work fast and ship fast and feel okay making mistakes, while also feeling like they're not going to feel the brunt of somebody if things go wrong because you're shipping so fast?
Yeah. What's a like a critical mistake that people make when managing engineers?
I think a critical mistake is thinking that a lot of the problems are going to be slightly more on the technical side. It's all about the people. At the end of the day, it is all about the people and trying to set them up for success. Very often, if you find a disagreement between two engineers, it can seem on the surface like the issue is a disagreement about the tech, but it is often actually about
Mhm.
social dynamics and the people and how they communicate and work together. At least that's been my experience. That like
Totally.
it's more about debugging the people side of the problems than the tech.
Do you miss debugging the tech side of the tech as well?
Oh, I don't get to escape that. I still, I get asked about like how do you keep your technical chops fresh?
Yeah,
And I do enough side projects with my time that I still get to deal with the debugging side of the technical, but they're very different problems,
totally.
and I think I would miss it if I wasn't in dev tools at least once a week in some way.
Yeah. Me personally too, it's like getting into the content or the podcast. It's always like, how do you stay and keep that up to dateness? But it's really just curiosity, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
letting that curiosity pull you into side projects or pull you into this or that. So it's
yeah,
awesome that you like are still able to
yeah,
get that in.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
sure it's empowering or energizing to
Yeah,
your other
yeah.
work.
I think remaining thirsty and
Yes.
curious is a superpower in this industry, especially when things keep moving so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. You also have a book, The Stoic Mind.
I promised I didn't pay Scott to promote
Yeah.
all of these.
I
Yeah.
this one's really interesting to me personally because I see your graphics that you post on LinkedIn, and I love that stuff. I'm also very interested in self help books, management books. So your graphics and the way you distill things is really a nice way to encapsulate a lot of ideas. What made you take that route and do a book on those types of skills rather than technical or engineering skills?
That's a really good question. I have been interested in some of the other aspects of life and being able to talk socially about the other aspects of life for a long time. But for whatever reasons, I found that some of the social networks that I've been posting on for a long time, like Twitter/X, maybe people were a little bit more interested in like very specifically like stick to your lane,
Yeah,
talk about engineering, talk
yeah.
about dev tools, performance, that type of thing. And so for the longest time, I put off talking about how I think about some of these other problem spaces. I joined LinkedIn in the last kind of 2 years. It was a good opportunity to take a fresh approach to it.
Hmm.
And one of the reasons I like talking about stoicism and motivation and just how, how to think every day is that it affects our lives way beyond the tech in some pretty deep ways that I think transcend tech and can still be
Totally.
useful in our day to day. Like, sometimes people in tech will come to me and say, we're in this rough period of time. Companies are doing layoffs or budgets are changing and shrinking and all sorts of other things. And I don't feel like I can necessarily change my environment a lot. How do I stay motivated? How do I,
Yeah.
and a Stoic principle is focus on what you can control. Because otherwise you can drive yourself crazy
Y-
worrying about everything else. But
Oh,
focus on even one thing you can control. And that can totally change your entire day.
yeah.
And I think that that helps in tech. It can help in like even outside on your weekends.
Totally. In fact, thank you for posting all that stuff. I would definitely like to see more of it. Even I'm always sending those images to friends and family because I see them specifically, and I think, oh, so and so could really use this specific message right now. I really definitely appreciate
Thank you.
putting that out into the world. I think it's super cool. And do you let like those aspects and the learnings that you do there influence your management style, your tech choices, those things?
I think so. I tend to feel like you need to be grounded in principles that you believe in, regardless of whether they apply to your job or your life or your hobbies and that type of thing. Like principles that can transcend.
Yeah.
Even when I would say, like, I was thinking about some of these ideas in tech, one of the things I said probably 13 or 14 years ago at this point was like one of these phrases like I was thinking about iteration and I said first do it, then do it right, then do it, better or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I genuinely like sometimes people will throw out quotes and it'll be meaningless, but genuinely I use that phrase and that concept almost every day. Even for this conference, right?
Yeah.
Like speakers who've been doing it for a long time still feel that emotion of, oh man, I have nothing, I've got a blank canvas. What am I going to talk about? And by the time that you've gone through the phases of, okay, I have a draft,
Yes.
I have a draft I'm happy with, I have something that, I'm going to be proud of. Being intentional with like just giving yourself credit as you go along that journey, I think can be healthy. And then, of course, we always get beyond that point to where like you have way too many slides and you
Sure.
have to
Yeah.
cut it back. But that's not a bad place to be.
I think that strategy works really well, and some people get held up on even getting started, not realizing that like it doesn't have to be
Yeah,
perfect. It's a
yeah,
first draft.
yeah,
It's an outline. It's a just getting started. That's like a really, I think, like a poignant lesson that a lot of
yeah.
people can learn. Yeah.
Absolutely. Progress over perfection. I
Oh,
think
nice.
that
Yeah.
very often we get stuck in having a picture in our head of like what an okay zero point 0.1 of something looks like.
Sure.
And we just decide to just keep staying in our heads and we don't make progress. But even having something you will throw away is something worth, celebrating. You've,
Yeah.
you've made a step forward.
I did music for a long time, and that was my strategy. You just record 30 songs and throw away 29 of them, and then maybe one of them will be decent. So it's definitely a good strategy. I want to talk a little bit about your talk today and your talk tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're speaking a lot about AI. Can you maybe give us a little bit of an overview about what you talked about?
Yeah, sure. So my talk today was a part of a series I'm calling the AI assisted developer workflow. And today specifically, I spent a lot of time talking about agents.
Yes.
In the last couple of years, there's been a lot of excitement about the use of AI in coding, in code generation, software engineering. Most of that, I would say, was focused on things like auto completion or guided migration, or how can AI give us more insights
Hmm.
on our journey. We're now entering this phase where model quality has gotten good enough that we can start to talk about automation a little bit more. And so I gave people a 101 about like what is an agent?
Hmm.
It's something that autonomously thinks about a problem and is able to go off and try solving aspects of it, maybe doing research, coming up with a plan, trying to come up with a solution, and then really trying to refine what it gives you so that you have a slightly higher quality of output than if you were to just ask, ChatGPT in a single,
Yeah.
single one shot, do X. And so what I talked about today was how to think about agents and concretely, like what are tools and techniques that developers can use today to bootstrap and iterate on their code bases.
Mm.
From a bootstrapping perspective, there are increasingly really cool options out there. So like there's Vercel's V0 for components. Bolt.new for full stack
Mm.
application development has been amazing. I've been enjoying using it every couple of days. Like I love that we're in a moment in time where you have an idea and you can spend like less than 30 minutes and have a version that it works. It's not just like
Yeah.
some shoddy prototype, but it works. You can share it with friends, get some feedback. That is so powerful. On the flip side, many of us are dealing with legacy code bases or big code bases we didn't write ourselves.
Mhm.
And even having AI help us on the tooling front with building out modules, functions, components, full features across multiple files. I think it's so cool that we were able to do that now. Modulo, it's not perfect yet, but already getting so much progress in a year, I think is incredible.
Yeah, it is shocking every single time something new comes out, how much better it is or iterative it is on something else. Do you see, well, I guess, how do you see the work that we do as developers evolving, given that the rate of change here is happening so fast?
Yeah. I think that how we approach prototyping as an industry is going to fundamentally change. I
Mm,
see AI and agents being able to help us rapidly prototype so much faster than we previously could. And maybe that'll give teams an opportunity to do a check on product market fit or just get feedback on ideas much faster
mhm.
rather than waiting for a full cycle of, yes, let's play around with the UX, let's spend time building out something ourselves. I'm excited about that. um, I think we're going to see an increased democratization of people who I guess maybe fit into more of a product engineering role, or people who have
Mhm.
slightly less technical skills, but they've got ideas that they want to try getting out into the world. I see these tools being able to help them. And then for us kind of classical software engineers, I see it being able to really help reduce friction in how we go solving problems and iterate on existing code. What that's going to look like in the future, I think, means hopefully a little bit less time spent debugging. Maybe my hope is more time spent, building delightful features for people. People have said this for years. I see AI as really helping complement our skills and making us more productive,
Mhm.
but not, strictly replacing us or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, given that we're at JSNation JavaScript conference, I know a big portion of the AI space is in Python. How do you think that connects to web developers? Do you feel like we have to learn Python now? Is that where we're going, or to be effective with AI, can you stay in your JavaScript lane?
Yeah, I think this is a big topic. I would say that one of the pieces of feedback, Chrome and web developers have been giving folks who've been working on AI models for a few years now is the importance of making sure that there are good wrapper libraries that use JavaScript, good SDKs, basically anything that will allow people without Python experience to leverage these models. And I think that we're in a good place now where whether you want to use Google's Gemini or Claude or OpenAI's models, you can just use JavaScript to interact with them.
Yeah.
I want to give kudos to solutions like Vercel's AI SDK. I think that they've helped lower the barrier a little bit. But if you're primarily an API consumer,
Mhm.
you're in a good place.
Yeah.
You're able to use AI as a consumer. If you're looking to go deeper than that, I would say that there is a lot that you can do using your JavaScript skills. There is still a little bit of a skew in the data science community towards Python. And you see that from, the number of 101, 201 guides
Yeah.
that assume you've got Python experience or models that maybe are slightly more optimized towards, the languages that people that worked on them care about or are familiar with, which isn't too surprising. I feel like most JavaScript developers should be able to leverage the stuff, use RAG, use these techniques without having to go so low level that you have to train a model yourself using languages you're less familiar with. That said, we're also at a time when maybe AI can help you on that
Yeah,
journey,
yeah,
right?
right. Yeah, exactly. I know it is shocking the number of people that I've interacted with. I mean, our producer over at Syntax, he built something that captures screenshots whenever Wes or I smile. He is not a programmer. He's never built anything, and he did that with the help of AI in Python, and that was pretty shocking to me to see somebody with no experience create something so incredible. And you're just like,
Yeah.
all right, this
It's
is
it's amazing, right? I
yeah.
I was telling someone today that many, many years ago, You probably remember this, right? So MySpace encouraged people to care about code.
Totally.
We had teenagers, we had like lots of young people coding just because they wanted their MySpace profile to look baller.
I wanted some skulls as a repeating wallpaper for me. That was
For
a
me, it was
yeah.
dancing babies.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
But
totally. Classic.
we've got another moment where it's enough to just have an idea to be able
Yeah.
to get something done. I was sharing this story, this example that I saw of an 11-year-old girl who had this idea around dinner time for an app, and by bedtime she already had a functional prototype. It's just like, how cool is
How
that?
cool.
You
Yeah.
can share, it's bedtime. You can share your app with your friends. You didn't have to go hire a whole software engineering team or anything. It's very cool.
Yeah, I think it freaks some people out, but it's highly enabling, right? Especially if you're an idea person or your
Yeah.
creative mind, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, for folks who are maybe concerned or worried that AI is going to replace us all in some short to midterm, um, a lot of the code that's being generated, someone's going to have to maintain it, right? For better or worse.
Scary thought,
It's a scary
yeah.
thought. Someone is going to have to maintain it. And, I would hate for us to get to a point where, we realize in 2 or 3 years just how much code has been pushed to production that's just ripe with security issues and privacy issues and XSS and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I feel like while it's going to be easy to bootstrap, actually building maintainable software is going to require durable skills, and those are places where we can add value, like understanding the architecture, understanding problems in ways that maybe AI cannot reason about as well just yet, understanding like the long-term nature of systems.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot there that I feel AI is going to, maybe eventually it'll help out with, but
Sure.
today.
Yeah, I know. It is funny. It's taken a bit of shift when you're working with AI and you're publishing code to feel like even though I didn't handwrite this code, I'm responsible for it.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
even if I didn't craft it and I put it out there, it is still like
Yeah. It's
my
it's like the
code.
XKCD. I made this,
Yes, yes, exactly right. So you've done a lot of speaking at conferences. What do you feel is the role of conferences these days, given that you can just, pop open YouTube or something like that and watch a talk? Why do you think it's important for people to come to conferences?
That's a great question. I think that there are two key value propositions of conferences these days. The first is what I feel has always been a big value prop, and it is the hallway track. It
Yeah,
is not just the conference content itself, but so many of the opportunities and insights that I got through my career, I can kind of attribute down to having a hallway conversation with someone I otherwise just absolutely would not have been able to connect with if it was on a social network or offline in
yeah,
some way. And it can just be a group of 2 or 3 people chatting in a hallway about, hey, we're all running into this same problem, what if we worked on a library
yeah,
around it?
yeah.
Or, oh, hey, you're solving this problem, I'd love to learn what you're doing and maybe take advantage of it. Or, hey, you guys have this opportunity or that opportunity. The hallway track has got so much value. And it's not just the hallway track. Recently, I would actually say that one of the bigger value props of conferences is curation.
Mm,
And I see conferences that are able to nail curation, like continuing to really go from strength to strength. It is really difficult to stay on top of everything happening in the tech industry,
yeah,
especially these days.
yeah.
Like I follow maybe 5 or 6 different like AI newsletters. I honestly I struggle a lot, and even if you're a good reader, you can still struggle. I feel like conference organizers who are willing to put in the time to find those topics and those speakers who can really resonate with people
Mhm.
on things that are key, and can add value to their career development moving forward. I think that that is a big reason to attend conferences today.
Totally. As for like the hallway track bit, do you have to be a speaker to take advantage of that? I know a lot of people might find that intimidating, right? Coming to a conference and just striking up a
Yeah,
conversation, right?
yeah. I can remember one of my very first conferences. I couldn't. I was maybe 19. I couldn't even afford my ticket. My
Yeah,
my best friend at the time said, like, I know this is important to you. I'll pay for your ticket.
nice.
And I attended the conference. It was early on in my open source career, and I knew that John Resick, the creator of jQuery,
Yes.
was at it. And I was really excited about the idea of like I want to contribute to jQuery in some way. I know I probably won't get to talk to him, but like even just being around, maybe I'll get some inspiration. I got to meet John at the conference. He actually talked to me, and that was such an inspiring moment for me at the time. And it helped me like get up the courage to go and contribute to jQuery and work with their team and be a part of that effort, which wouldn't have happened. I don't think it would have happened if I hadn't actually gone to that conference. And I was shy at the time. I wasn't someone that was as outgoing. I feel like there are a lot of folks who will come to a conference that feel like, oh, hey, I'm not one of these groups who seem to be hanging around together. I'm just on my own here. How do I even start talking to people? Very often, just walking up, joining the circle.
Yeah,
What I found is that most of the people at these conferences are here to learn, to make friends, and to leave it better than they came. And they're almost always open to chatting with more people. Like the worst that can happen is probably someone just sticking to talking to the people they're talking to, or maybe the conversation dies down a little bit. But you've tried, right? You can always move to another circle of people and
yeah.
strike up more topics. But I feel like there's a lot more opportunity than maybe folks give it credit for.
Yeah, and like you said, people want to talk. I know that just walking around, it's always exciting to hear what people are working on, right? Even if it's something small or different, everybody's working on interesting things, and you just show up to a circle, somebody asks you what you're working on,
Yeah,
and it just goes from there,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, you can learn a whole lot of new things.
yeah.
So you recommend people still having their companies send
Yeah,
employees to
yeah,
conferences, and yeah.
absolutely. I think that for companies, I'm a manager of managers. I manage teams, and we have to think about like travel budgets and ROI and all things like that. I do encourage you to give your teams the budget to go to conferences. I also encourage you to ask your teams to maybe just write up a trip report
Hmm.
about what are the things you learned? What are the opportunities for the business? What do you think we could be doing better? Who do you think we should be talking to? What should we be paying attention to in the next year? Even that, it can
Yeah,
be as long, as short as you want, but that I think can add a lot of value and help justify the company sending you again and again
yeah.
to conferences.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to be it for today. It's been awesome
Oh,
getting to
it's been
chat.
an honor.
Yeah, and I look forward to your talk tomorrow. Super
Thank
excited
you.
about it.
Thank you.
It's been great chatting.
It's been awesome. Thank you.
Sick.